Support for Lab Out Loud is provided by NSTA, the National Science Teaching Association. Find out more about what NSTA has to offer at nsta.org. You're listening to Lab Out Loud, Science for the Classroom and Beyond. Our guest today talks with us about the benefits of having a group of educators to turn to when teaching day-to-day or facing a challenge from students and families.
You know, we close the door to our classrooms and we're kind of isolated. There's so many polite and correct, respectful responses teachers can make to a parent or to a student who's uncomfortable with the topic. And we give them those resources, the National Science Foundation, the National Science Teachers Association, the National Center for Science Education, and TIES, Center for Inquiry. When teachers know they can turn to us and turn to these other foundations and institutes, it gives them confidence.
That's up next on Lab Out Loud. But first, I'm your co-host, Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartel.
And we are back with another podcast. What is our podcast rate when we start talking about evolution? It's like we go evolution, then we talk about something in physics, and
this is a guest who reached out to us and had this. Basically, she has a lot of resources that she wanted to share with educators, specifically science educators teaching evolution. Yeah, and we've talked about evolution in the past. We've talked about resources and support. One thing that caught my eye with this is that because she's coming from Miami-Dade County in Florida, there's a lot of her support is also in Spanish. So, there's...
Yeah, for sure.
I like to see some of that happening and some of our science content being more accessible to our changing populations.
For sure. And so I guess, without further ado, can you introduce us? Who are we talking to today?
So this is Bertha Vazquez. And Bertha, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Bertha Vazquez. I'm first and foremost a classroom teacher. This is my 30th year teaching science in Miami-Dade County.
Congratulations, 30 years.
Yeah. My 32nd year overall. And so I've been teaching middle school, believe it or not, at the same school for 30 years. It's a great school. It's George Washington Carver Middle School in Miami-Dade. It's a language magnet school. So the kids leave our school completely bilingual in, English and Spanish, Italian, German, or French.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really neat. And so your classes are a mix of we're about 80% Hispanic, I would say. It's a pretty educated demographic. The parents, I'd say almost 100% of the parents have college educations. I'd say 80 to 90% of the parents are professionals. And, but you have a lot of just, I don't know what you call it, regular American kids. You have lots of European kids, tons and tons of South and Central American kids, Caribbean kids. So it's a really fun place to work.
So has it been a magnet school like this for the 30 years you've been there?
It has. I believe I got there the second year was a magnet. So it's been a magnet since like 1990, 1991.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How many languages, or do you speak additional languages then?
I do. My Spanish is my first language. My parents are Cuban immigrants to this country. I speak French fluently. I actually am certified to teach French in the state of Florida. And I also speak a Catalan, which we don't use very often here in this country. It's that area of Spain in Barcelona's the capital. So, yeah. And then, we dip into French, German and Italian. It's kind of fun. I like to say things in class like, do you have your homework in every language and things like that.
Oh, wow.
It's a neat place to work.
Dale works at an ABS school, which is Appleton Bilingual School, and there's it's basically English Spanish. Well, you can describe it.
It's English Spanish, and so they teach in both languages. So it's just a bilingual. It's a charter school though, so it's it's not part of our standard program or anything like that. So I don't speak any other language than English. I wish I did. Those teachers try to drag me along a lot of times, and I lean on them a lot, and actually the kids too. So they'll tell me what to say and how to say it. So
Are the kids learning Spanish or they're coming from Spanish-speaking homes?
Depends. We have both. So we'll have kids that come from Spanish-speaking homes. They'll speak English also. Or
my
vice
niece
versa.
and nephew who are not Spanish-speaking, or before they went to the school, and so they left with a significant amount of Spanish. So some lessons are taught in Spanish and some are taught in English.
That's good. Sounds a lot like our school. We do have a mix of native speakers with kids who've learned it since first grade. They come to us from the elementary school. Mm-hmm. And then the teachers, our teachers are from Spain, Germany, France, Italy. So it's just a wonderful cultural collaboration for everyone involved. We have a lot of luncheons, like the Spanish teachers have a luncheon and the Italian teachers and the German teachers. So even if you're not in that program, you're exposed to the culture and the language. Wow. And it's I have to say it's a fun place to work. That's why I'm still there, right? 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be a fun place.
One of the fascinating things about Dale School is because it's a charter school, they have actually done NGSS way before the rest of the district because a large district like ours takes a lot of time to turn and change gears. So, but they're as a charter, they're nimble. They say we're doing this.
Yeah. They're a small school too. I mean, it's just really one class for each grade level.
Oh wow! Yeah,
yeah, it's tiny.
A regular,
in a church.
They lease space in a church. Yes.
Yeah, some of the charters down here in Florida do that as well.
Uh-huh. Well, we can talk about where we teach for the rest of the day, but it is fascinating to see differences and similarities, though, and we don't often get that all the time.
Let's talk about snow days. No, just kidding.
No, about hurricane days.
They have hurricane days. We don't have that, Dale.
Oh, good Lord, hurricane days.
Yeah. We've had cold days where it's too cold to go outside. We have actually had more of those than snow days lately.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
You have humid days? It's too humid to go outside, maybe?
No, we just do it.
Oh, well, that's good.
It's awfully humid today, for example.
I don't want to say that's good, but it's yes, we all get through it, right?
Yeah.
It is good to hear about your day job because often, we talk to a lot of educators, and Dale and I are educators ourselves, and so doing the podcast is kind of like it's like a side business. It's like a side job that we enjoy doing, almost like a busman's holiday sometimes. Like, we get to experience and meet other people, and it's less work sometimes when we get to meet people like you.
I think that's nice, and I like a lot of teachers have second jobs.
Absolutely,
partially because our salaries require it, or lack thereof. But a lot of us have our second jobs with kids. And to be honest, I love my second job because I deal with other educators. And you learn from each other, you feed off each other, and I love it. Makes a big difference.
So tell us about this second job. This is TIES you're referring to, correct?
Yeah, so it's called the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science. The website is simply tieseducation.org, all one word. So the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science, the acronym is TIES. And it kind of, I'll tell you, the way it started is kind of funny. I met Richard Dawkins, the biologist, at the University of Miami. He was a traveling professor there. He was there for 2 weeks. And he invited me to stay for lunch with these college professors. And the topic of evolution came up. One of the professors had their child in a private school down here. And that year, this was about 2013, somebody complained that the teacher was teaching evolution. So the private school just decided to take out the entire evolution curriculum from the scope and sequence of the school year. And that really shocked him. And I went back, and of course they like teachers to promote professional development. And I started giving other teachers workshops, PDs, in evolution curriculum because it's one of my favorite topics, and it happens to, my degrees in biology. I met Richard Dawkins the following year at another event here in Miami, Florida. And I said, hey, we met last year, and I want to tell you I've been promoting evolution education locally. He thought it was a great idea. He gave me his card. And the next morning, I emailed him. And the next morning, I'll never forget it. I was teaching sixth grade science, teaching weather. And the phone rings, And it was Richard Dawkins. And he said, hey, I really love what you're doing. Do you think I could meet those teachers and help you and come and talk evolution with these teachers in Miami-Dade County?
That's amazing. You got a phone call in the middle of class. That's like, hey kids, I got a call from Bill Nye. Could you hang on for a moment? And
yeah, actually, I've met him too through this job, which is pretty neat. But after I peeled myself off the floor, I got permission from my principal to invite Richard Dawkins to come 2 weeks later. He was in a trip in between. And the school district opened it up to all the science teachers in the school district. And he came to our middle school auditorium, and we had hundreds of teachers there. This is the 4th largest school district in the country. And we just asked and answered and talked about evolution and evolution education. He then asked me to do it for him nationally, which kind of scared me because I'm a classroom teacher. I'm not an organizer or a leader in that sense. But I thought, okay, let me put some principles on the table. Number one, I want to make sure everything I offer is free. Number two, I want teachers to present to teachers. I want this to be a teacher institute. And that's what I created. My third thing was that I wanted to make it really, really easy to use. I wanted it to be kind of all in one place. So like they helped me, the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. They have great techies. They helped me create the website. About a year later, the Richard Dawkins Foundation fell under merged with the Center for Inquiry. Mm-hmm. So then now that my program falls under the Center for Inquiry. And if you see the website, the first thing you're going to notice in the resources is there's some PowerPoints at the top. And I know teachers think, and rightly so, that PowerPoint's kind of a bad word. But the reason I use PowerPoint is that embedded in those PowerPoints, you have online games, you have videos, you have hands-on activities, you have active learning ideas, bell ringers. Everything is embedded in one place. So basically, if you download this free PowerPoint, and it comes with the student response sheet, the answer key, the exam, everything. If you download this, you have your entire evolution unit all in one place. An evolution unit that would meet or exceed the standards of your state, the evolution standards of your state. And then I also started training other teachers to present, because I am in the classroom full time. So I couldn't exactly be, flying around the country, although that sounds kind of fun, talking to teachers. So, for example, we have somebody in Wisconsin, somebody in Minnesota, somebody in Louisiana. And since we launched in 2015, I don't want to give you I don't know the exact number, but we have presented over 240 workshops ranging from 60 minutes to full days in all 50 states. And they've been presented by over 80 different presenters. And I just think that tells you what kind of a need there was, how successful this program has been, teachers helping other teachers teach their evolution content. And, the idea is if you understand the content, you're going to teach it better. You're more excited about it. You're more enthusiastic. And that's going to transfer in the classroom. I mean, I know for sure in my classroom, kids love genetics, evolution, ecology more than they love the electromagnetic spectrum. Because I like it.
Hey.
I know. That was a bad
Talking
choice.
to the physics teacher here,
Sorry, it's pretty cool too.
Every time you use the microwave, people, come on. Your cell phone, this conversation.
I shouldn't have said, but if I knew it, if I understood it like I understood biology and evolution, I would teach it better, I'd enjoy it better, and the kids would love it more. So, I think a good teacher can teach anything as long as he or she has the resources and the content knowledge to do so. Mm-hmm. And I'm quoting Dr. Caitlin Shrine here of the National Science Foundation. I completely agree with that. We've got some excellent teachers across the country. What they need are good resources, and in many cases, especially middle school, they need some content.
Yeah.
When you say you have people in like every state, are those is that members in every state, or like before you said you have someone in Wisconsin? Is that like part of a board, or how does that work?
Well, on the website, it says join the TIES Teacher Corps. and teachers reach out. And then I interview them, I talk to them. What it is, we're really focusing on middle school science. We do have a lot of stuff for high school. We have more and more stuff for elementary. Some of it I've developed myself, but most of it I just scour the internet and find the best resources and put them all in one place, But what we mostly have are high school biology teachers presenting to middle school science teachers. Because I say, as a middle school science teacher, I have to teach everything from weather to electromagnetic spectrum to evolution. And there's no way I can be an expert in all these areas.
Yeah,
so
correct.
That's the focus. I also think there's just fantastic resources for high school teachers out there already. So my goal really is to get as many resources for middle school science teachers about evolution all in one place.
I think sometimes middle school, and we also see it in elementary schools, they often don't have the resources that we need to teach science and feel confident, like you mentioned, about the subject matter. And so, sometimes they might be tempted to gloss over or, something like evolution, especially if they're scared about it. And a lot of times it's just a lack of understanding and resources instead of anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, no one is going to, if I teach, Newton's laws of motion, I don't think I'm going to get a parent phone call or a parent email. But across our country, when a teacher talks about evolution, they're going to get phone calls and emails. And I've seen quite a few in my time in this position as the director of this institute. So the more confident they are and the more tools they have to be able to respond correctly to these complaints or inquiries.
I kind of want to make a parody film now of parents upset about Newton's 3 laws.
Yeah.
You have April Fools to prepare for.
How dare you say there's a force pushing back that's equal?
Have you ever heard of Newton's 4th law? Huh?
They don't tell you about Newton's 4th law. Oh, no.
There's a great one on 2 + 2 = 5. On YouTube, and the parents go crazy because the kid wrote 2 + 2 = 5, and they make a big ruckus because the teacher marked it wrong. And
that's hilarious. That confidence piece is so huge.
It's key.
You brought that confidence tied to understanding the material, having good material to teach with.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering about the other side of knowing that you belong to, like, I guess knowing you have people in your corner. Yeah, knowing you have people in your corner. Yeah. Is that how do you address that factor?
I love it, and not only that, I think a lot of teachers think they don't realize. We close the door to our classrooms and we're kind of isolated. Yeah. There's so many polite and correct, respectful responses teachers can make to a parent or to a student who's uncomfortable with the topic, and we give them those resources: the National Science Foundation, the National Science Teachers Association, the National Center for Science Education, and TIES, Center for Inquiry. Mm-hmm. So when teachers know they can turn to us and turn to these other foundations and institutes, it gives them confidence, as you say.
Right. We had a situation almost a decade ago. Dale and I are both involved in our state science teacher organization, and there was a middle school teacher who asked us, is there an alternative to evolution? That's what a parent's asking for. And our district has an alternative for sex ed, but we don't have one for evolution, and we
don't have an alternative for sex ed. We have an opt-out.
Correct.
Our state, and that's our state. That's state law.
Right. So the parent was looking for something similar for evolution, and the answer was no. This is what's tested, and this is what we're beholden to teach as this is the law to teach it.
Yeah, and there's no opt out for gravity. I think we really could address the idea that the word theory is so misunderstood.
Yeah.
Not misunderstood. It's just what I tell my kids is there's two definitions to that word, just like the word organic.
And research. That's the other one lately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As in, do your own research, Brian?
Well, as in, I did some research. I did some Googling last night.
I always correct my own children about that. I researched. I'm like, wait a minute. That you didn't. Research really has deteriorated that word, hasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, do your own research. Well, theory works that way too. And it's okay to say, I have a theory of the crime or the theory the Miami Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl. That's a bad theory, though. But
well, what could we do better about the word theory, the term theory?
I really teach it. And I have the kids write theory, fact, hypothesis, and law kind of in order of biggest, most important, broadest explanation. And I don't think I've ever had a student get it right. Fact is the smallest because it's just a teeny thing. Like there are 23 chromosomes in a human egg cell. That's a fact. And then hypothesis, is your testable statement, followed by a law, which describes nature, and a theory, which explains something in nature. I think the other thing we should promote is the idea that it's okay to use it the other way. Just like, your mom asks you to pick up the organic milk, you could be a smart aleck and get any milk, right? Because they're all organic. But you know what your mom means when she says, go grab the organic milk, or your dad. So the idea that word theory kind of has two meanings. And if you stick the word scientific in front of the word theory, it doesn't mean what you think it means.
Right. Just nomenclature. I think, sometimes it's I don't want to say it's as simple as that, but that's a good starting point.
They've suggested, some scientists suggest we change it like physicists use principle.
Oh.
Instead of using theory, use the principle of the germ principle, or the heliocentric principle, or the principle of evolution. I don't know if that's ever going to switch, but I think that's the biggest misconception from my experience speaking with teachers across the country is the word theory. Sure.
So beyond the PowerPoints, and I don't think necessarily PowerPoint is a bad thing, but we definitely see it used improperly, but that's a whole different conversation. In any case, do you have other resources on the TIES website?
Tons. And so tieseducation.org, one of the things you could click on is see all resources. I think one of the best ones is we have a virtual unit. Because of the pandemic, we developed a unit that kids can do on their own. Say you have a child who's quarantined. They can continue doing the unit on their own, but it could also be used in the classroom. Teacher guided, small group, whole group discussion, however the teacher chooses. That's a great resource. And by the way, they're all in Spanish. Everything we offered in English, we offered in Spanish.
I was just noticing that. I was going to say, sticking to your schools.
Goals. And then all the other resources are organized by category. So natural selection videos, natural selection games, vestigial structures, fossils, the word theory. So a teacher can go on there and see that all the resources, and there's dozens of resources, are organized by category. All free.
Wonderful. Have you seen an uptick in, I guess, controversy of evolution recently, or does it align to other scientific kind of controversies we see? Is it? I think about this in the sense that we're seeing people get the science wrong, or wanting to go against science with what we see from the CDC, from researchers from the medical field, climate change. I would have thought we would have kind of
flat Earth.
Right. We almost had this evolution thing licked, and then I'm like, I get so disappointed. Do you see an increased demand, or where do you see that right now?
We need to give it a little time for this anti-science kick that's taking place in our country to kind of leak into other areas. At the moment, it's the contrary. More than half of Americans now accept evolution. And I notice I don't use the word believe in evolution because Neil deGrasse Tyson says it's true whether you believe it or not. That's the first time ever. It's gone up like 14 points in a little over a decade. So if anything, it's encouraging. But you know what? There might be, give it a year or two for this anti-science feeling to spread. Maybe it moves back in the other direction a little bit. I hope not.
I hope you're wrong as well.
Yeah, let's not root for it.
No, definitely not. And you know what I felt like, for example, I did a full day workshop in Mississippi this summer, and there were two very young teachers there in their 20s, and they recall their fellow students in high school complaining to the principal about evolution, complaining in the class to the teacher about evolution. And they say they don't feel it. They're teaching it and nobody's giving them backlash.
Mm-hmm.
We have very few college professors, but we do have a wonderful professor at Valdosta State. And she says that she's noticed a big difference. These kids coming in from high school to Valdosta State, mainly from Georgia, less and less controversy.
Good.
They're accepting it.
Good.
I think it has a lot to do with like some excellent science communicators, like maybe, like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson and you guys, and also better standards. I think better textbooks, really cool resources, videos and games and stuff that are online. I think it's all of these things together.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that just different media now that we have things like video, we have kids listening to podcasts. We have those options there to present. They can be complex issues that are hard to kind of present without those types of visuals and things like that.
And I think too, you have to attribute it to a decreasing religiosity in this country as well.
Possibly. I am concerned of alternative media that we're seeing, pop up, and distrust of I guess our standard channels in media, and what that might breed with other things. And I think we're already starting to see that with global climate change and other things with vaccinations and things like that might get in bed with the wrong kind of that the science that we don't want to see out there, or I don't even want to call it science, but the anti-science sentiments that are out there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that the overwhelming good content that's out there will drown out the noise.
Yeah. And, one of the other things I tried to promote with Ties is evolution is just so cool. It's so interesting. It's so fascinating. It's like Darwin said, there's grandeur in this view of life.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if you're looking at it in terms of who's got the better product, it's just amazing to see the world through this lens.
Absolutely.
I think that helps too. When you talk about, leafy sea dragons and axolotls and Lucy, I don't know. I think it's exciting, and the kids see themselves in it, and it's. I'm going to be optimistic and think we're going to keep moving in this direction. I have to be.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think there's lots to be said when we see, even new discoveries of fossils that are coming out from around the world and are teaching us new things every day. And that in itself tells us a little bit about how the process of science works. We thought one thing, and then we find more evidence to say this is changing the field. And
absolutely, that is that's a big takeaway. I talked to someone who didn't want to get vaccinated. Well, I'm waiting for something that's 100%. I'm like, no, that's not how science works. You vaccines don't make you safe; they make you safer, a lot safer. This idea that science can change its mind as more evidence comes. I love that. I do this thing with the kids, a history of atomic theory. And you start when we thought, Dalton, the atom was just like a BB out of a BB gun. And you have Thomson, and you have Chadwick discovering the neutron, and you have Rutherford and Bohr. And I show them how it's changed over time, and that it's okay. I don't know, when I'm wrong, I change my mind. What do you do? Kind of thing.
I don't think people change their mind much, though. I think that's a big challenge. Not limited to science. It's hard to say, you know what, I'm going to change my mind on this. And then you get this sort of, they're just sunken cost fallacy kind of thing. Like, I'm all in. I can't change course. I've invested too much emotional energy, too much time into this, and I can't get out of there. And so then when they see
becomes an issue of pride.
Yeah, it does. And I think when you see a scientist who's, the underpinning of that field is to accept new information and change if, when necessary. And that's how, that just has this big conflict here of how do I reconcile somebody who just, last year said this and now they said that, now they're saying this. How could that be?
Absolutely.
I think that is a big thing. And I would love to see how we can develop lessons to address that with students about the changing nature of science. I think your atomic theory one is very good. I would love to see if we have more that are even closer in time to us, this to see like.
Well, that's the stories, but the NGSS practices do that. So just the updated standards have, I think, moved us in tremendously forward in what you speak of there, Dale.
Yeah, I remember, because I was a geology student, I remember my mineralogy professor telling me that when he was in school, there was this theory kicking around about plate tectonics, and it was wild, and to hear that, he told our class that, we were just like, this is crazy. Like, we couldn't imagine that, but of course it changes over time. It's just that, we have our current environment that we're in, and we just don't think that, we think that that's the way it was.
I think there can be a danger in some of that mindset too, because we sometimes see someone rooting for, if you think back to the plate tectonics example, they might have thought, oh, there's some crackpot who's got this idea without any evidence. And sure enough, it takes hold and it becomes what we know of as a scientific theory. And we might see someone rooting for an obscure idea and thinking it's going to gain traction that, let's just say ivermectin or, some other wonky way to treat COVID that absolutely has no evidence behind it or very, very little, for instance. And they think that they're going to be the next changing the world kind of idea.
Yeah, and that fact that science takes time. Show us evidence. Show us evidence of endosymbiosis, or show us evidence of ivermectin working. That's the next step. And kids have asked me, well, why can't you teach intelligent design? I said, listen, if you want to play on this court, you need to play by the rules of this court. And it's not that we're prejudiced against intelligent design. You need to show us evidence.
This isn't Calvin Ball. We don't just make up the rules as we go when you don't like what you hear.
Exactly. And now it's just so complicated. And our brains are wired to take shortcuts. Oh. So I don't know the answer. You just, every day you just chip away and do the best you can in class. I tell the kids the importance of humility, that scientists don't aspire to be right. They aspire to be less wrong every day.
Oh, I like that.
And I tell them, if you're arrogant, don't go into the sciences because you're going to be wrong a bunch.
Yeah. And you have to admit that.
And be okay with admitting it. Because you know what? If you're wrong, that means you're about to discover something new and really cool.
We have an agreement.
And the
dog agrees.
And the eyes have it. Brian, get your dog to agree. Come on.
She's waiting for the mail upstairs, I think. So, well, Bertha, you've given us a lot to think about and some fantastic resources that I know we're going to find some of our listeners diving into and utilizing. You mentioned that you do some workshops in there. Can you tell us a little bit about that before you go?
Yes. So if I would love to give my email, or if you could put my email on the site, it's B for Bertha.
We'll have it in the show notes.
Oh, you'll have it up?
We'll put it in the show notes and people can go there, but you can speak it too.
Oh, great. So B Vazquez, BVAZ for zebra, QUEZ at Center for Inquiry, all one word, centerforinquiry.org. We do a lot of workshops at state conferences. We do a lot of workshops in collaboration with school districts, zoos, museums, universities, all sorts of different things. So if someone's interested in a free workshop where somebody would either by Zoom or fly in and do a full day, and we provide breakfast and lunch for the teachers, we bring goodies like T-shirts and resources, and we provide you, usually I fly in a guest speaker too, usually a scientist. The last one we had was a scientist who works with the American Chestnut Foundation. They're trying to repopulate the American chestnut across our continent. And she talked about the evolution aspects of that. So, yeah, it's cool. So full day workshop, we fly in. Everything is free for the school district. And we provide teachers with excellent training in evolution content and evolution resources. And this is all paid for by very generous donors who donate to the Center for Inquiry and the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science.
Wow, I hope you get a lot of requests after listening to the show.
Hey, I'd love to go to Wisconsin.
We'd love to have you. Thank you so much for your time, Bertha, and we wish you lots of requests, and hopefully you get a lot more downloads after we have listeners finish the show.
Thank you, and I wish everybody a healthy, very healthy, safe school year, more productive school year.
To you as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much. Thanks for listening to this episode of Lab Out Loud. If you'd like to learn more about some of the things discussed in this episode or previous episodes, you can find show notes at our website, laboutloud.com. If you have a guest idea or a future topic that you'd like to see on Lab Out Loud, go to our contact page and send us a message. Also, you can subscribe to Lab Out Loud on your favorite podcasting app, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to find podcasts. While you're there, leave us a review and rate it. Your input helps others find our show. Thanks again for listening.